In this lecture, we'll write our first console application or console app using Visual Studio. And even if you plan to use Visual Studio as your IDE in this course, you should watch the previous lecture about MonoDevelop because it includes ideas about programming that I'm not repeating in this lecture. So let's get right to work using Visual Studio to write a console app. I've started up Visual Studio, and this is our start screen for the environment. I'll come up here to the upper left and say File, New, Project. And then I'm going to get some choices for the kind of project I want to create. And I'm going to pick Console App. And over here, if Console App doesn't show up, if for some reason you have other languages selected or something like that, be sure to click Visual C#, and that will give you this pane that you need. Console App is the third one down. And I will call this First Console App. And I'll click OK. And it will generate a template for me for the first console app, just like MonoDevelop generates a template for the console app there. So you wait patiently while it generates the template. And here you can see this looks remarkably similar to the template we got in MonoDevelop. There are some minor changes. We have more using directives, and that's okay. The class is named Program rather than Main Class, and it doesn't give us a default message that it prints out. Remember, MonoDevelop gave us Hello World. But the structure of this console app is the same as the structure that we got from MonoDevelop. So I'm going to go grab all the code we wrote in MonoDevelop and copy it and paste it in here, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now we have the source code here in Visual Studio. So we want to build it and run it. If you look up here and you select Build, you can see that Build Solution, the hotkey on this computer is F6. Now it's very strange. I've seen this installed on various computers, even various computers for me, and sometimes it's F6, sometimes it's F7, sometimes it's Control-Shift-B. So at least the first time you build, you need to go figure out what your hotkey is for building. And you can certainly Google to find out how to change your hotkey if you want to. I'll just use F6. And so F6 builds, and there's a build started message down there on the bottom left. And once it's done, we'll get build succeeded. And there we go. And to run it is Control F5, just like we did in MonoDevelop, and we get that message. If you did start debugging, if you just used F5, then you'd have problems. Let me show you how that works. So instead of Control F5, here's what you might do by mistake. You might just press F5. And you'll see we had a window pop up and then it disappeared and we never got to see our output or anything. So pretty much we're just going to use Control F5 to run our console apps in both Visual Studio and in MonoDevelop. As I mentioned in the previous lecture, I have provided a chapter from the book that talks about the structure of console apps. So you can go ahead and take a look at that, download it if you'd like to read some more details about console apps. To recap, you can use Visual Studio as your IDE in this course. Even though I've recorded all the lectures using MonoDevelop, the C# and Unity ideas are the same no matter which IDE you use. I'm providing all the lecture code and exercise code and peer review code as both MonoDevelop and Visual Studio. So even if you are using Visual Studio, you'll have access to all the resources that people who use MonoDevelop have access to. For the lecture code, I'm not allowed to attach a zip file as a resource to a particular lecture. So for each lesson, I've included a reading that includes all the lecture code for all the lectures in that lesson at the end of that particular lesson. So you can go there to get access to all the lecture code.